Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and today Apple launched all new iPad Air models with new M2 chipsets in them. These aren't as big of an upgrade as the new iPad Pro models, but I thought we'd unbox them, set them up, and take a first look at them and do a general overview and comparison. Now these start at $599 and go up to $1,249 with cellular for the 11-inch model. There's also a brand new 13-inch model that comes in at $799 and goes up to $1,449. Again with cellular. There's no Nano Texture like the iPad Pro models, and we have different storage sizes. We have 128, 256, 512, and 1 terabyte. You'll see here I have the 256 iPad Air 13-inch with Wi-Fi, and then with the 11-inch, also I have the 128 gig Wi-Fi, but also in purple and blue. We have a space gray and a different sort of starlight color that goes along with this. Now let's go ahead and open up the 11-inch, then the 13-inch, and we'll take a look at some accessories after. So again, we'll open this up. Let's pull this other tab off. And let's do the same here with the 13-inch. So we'll open this one too. There we are. And let's take off the box tops and see what we've got here. So we'll remove this and take the iPad out. Now this is going to be very similar to what we had before. And inside we've got our normal documentation with the iPad Air Quick Start Guide, and then also warranty card. And now one thing that we don't have anymore is Apple stickers. Apple removed this from the iPad Pro and iPad Air. However, we still have our charging brick in the box. This is the 20-watt version, and it's the same thing you get with the iPad Pro, along with a braided USB-C to USB-C cable, again included in the box. And for some reason I thought I ordered the purple one, I guess not, but this is the space gray. Let's go ahead and remove the cover here. There we are, and this is definitely thicker and heavier than what we have with the iPad Pro. But let me set this aside, and then we'll take a closer look at the 13-inch as well. And I should have known the color by the edge of the box here, but it looks like we should have the blue one on this one. So let's go ahead and pull the top off the box. We'll remove this, the 13-inch. That feels much more like the current iPad Pro until the new ones launch today. And then in the box, the exact same thing. So we don't have color-matched USB-C cables or anything else. And let's remove the cover off of the iPad Air 13. And this is the new blue color. So let me put the box away and let's take a closer look. Now with the iPad Air, it's mostly the same exact thing. So like I said, we have those same colors, and then also the overall design is very similar. The rigidity is the same. This feels very rigid, even compared to the new iPad Pro, but we have one camera, just like we had before, instead of two on the Pro. If we go around the outside edge, we've got our volume buttons on the right. If we go along the edge here, there's our little connector for the Apple Pencil. Then on the bottom, we have USB-C with 2 speakers, or really 1 speaker, probably in a residence chamber. And then on the left-hand side, or top, if you're in portrait mode, we have our Touch ID sensor, since we don't have Face ID here, along with our speaker grills again. On the front, no Nano Texture display, but we do have a landscape camera. And you'll see the camera, well, the camera looks like it's off-center here. So it's off-center just like on the Pro. So you can see it here, and then it's kind of at the top of where you would connect the Apple Pencil. The same is true with the 13-inch iPad Pro. Basically the same thing that we would expect, very similar size and weight to what we have with the current iPad Pro, the mini LED version, and it seems basically the same. So not really a whole lot of differences here, just the different color options along with Touch ID, which seems odd on such a large iPad. Now compared with last year's, you can use the same accessories. So before we turn this on and set it up, this is last year's blue color compared to this year's blue color. So let me show you that. We'll just flip that over. I like the darker colors from the previous years, but they both look pretty good. And as far as accessories, you should be able to use the previous year's accessories. So maybe you have an iPad Air or something else. This is the little cover here. It fits right in place, holds fine, and we can use the exact same cover with the latest version. So that's always nice to see. And the same is true with the Magic Keyboard. So let me get the Magic Keyboard from the previous iPad Pro. So here's the Magic Keyboard, and we should be able to use it. This is from my iPad Pro, like I mentioned, and if we close this, it fits perfectly with the previous generation. I've used this for a year and a half or a couple years at this point, and it works just like you would expect with this iPad. So it's great that you can use the older accessories. If you don't want the latest Pro, you could get the latest Air and then use the Magic Keyboard from that. Now let me set these aside and let's turn these on. So we'll go ahead and turn on both displays. Again, we don't have a Nano Texture option on these, so they're both booting up here. Give it just a moment. And the overall displays are pretty much what we had before. So we have liquid retina LCD displays at 600 nits, and depending on the one you have, the larger one is 2732 by 2048 at 264 pixels per inch. There's no HDR and there's no ProMotion. Now let's go ahead and slide up and get these set up. So we'll go ahead and set up English. I can bring in my iPhone here, and then we just continue on our iPhone. There we go. It'll connect and get that set up, and I'll set them up at the same time. So we'll tap continue, one with this, one without. So now it's asking me to put in the passcode from my iPhone. Now it's asking me if I want to update the software. I want to see what version came pre-installed with this, so I'll update later. We have to agree to the data and privacy. Tap continue. Now it wants me to set up Touch ID, so we can just place our finger here. I do wish it had Face ID, as I like that better on iPads, but I actually like Touch ID quite a bit on the iPhone. We'll tap continue and continue to set up our finger here on the Touch ID sensor. Then it says it's added. We can add another if we want, or just leave it like that. I'll just leave it for now. And then it says setting up your Apple ID. Now it's asking us to agree to the terms and conditions. We'll do that. And then it says it's signing in. So we'll give that a moment to complete. So now it's asking me what I want to transfer. I don't want to transfer anything. I want to set it up like it's a new iPad. Then we'll tap continue. And then it's asking me if I want to update automatically. I'll only download. Both devices are set up and ready to go. Let's touch ID there. We'll do the same over here. There we are, and we're unlocked on both. Now these displays, because they're LCD or liquid retina, as Apple calls them, they don't have PWM. That means they don't flicker at all. They shouldn't bother your eyes. And you can see this at 240 frames per second, where you don't really notice any difference whatsoever. So they shouldn't bother your eyes at all and should be pretty eye strain free as far as these go. Now, the other thing that I wanted to check is the wallpapers and also the pre-installed iOS version. So if we go into settings, you'll see both versions have iPadOS 17.4 on them, just like the iPad Pro did, and we have a build number of 21E8237. So that's the pre-installed build that actually came with it. And as far as the wallpapers go, let's go into Wallpaper here. We'll add a new one, scroll down. I'm not sure why that always takes time to populate like that, but we'll give it a moment here to load. And if we go into the ones that are suggested for it, they show up automatically, or we can swipe through the different styles. So if you want to choose one that matches your iPad, you can do that. So I like to shrink the clock here, use the second one, and then we'll go ahead and hit add. So we'll do custom home screens, tap done, and then swipe home. So no animations with these wallpapers, but they seem to look pretty nice. They go along with it, and I'll link them in the description. Apple's also included new updates in the software specific to the new iPad Air and iPad Pro. If we go into battery, you'll see we now have battery health. Why they couldn't include this with the older iPads with a software update, I'm not really sure. They did the exact same thing with the iPhone 15 models. So you'll see we have battery health, we have our capacity, and then cycle count, and then 80% limit. So it's great to see them all have the same features across the board, but I really wish they just bring this to older devices. However, I would like to have the option to turn this off because the maximum capacity sort of gives some people anxiety, but at least it tells you that it's normal, and then it will tell you when you need to replace it. So it's only on the latest iPad Air models and the iPad Pro. Now, as far as the speed goes, well, both of them are using an M2 processor. Now, we don't have ProMotion with that M2, even though it could handle it, but they just have decided to make that a Pro feature. But if we go over and go into Geekbench here, Geekbench 6, we can see how much RAM we have pre-installed. So it looks like 8 gigs in each, where they say 7.47 or 7.45. So it looks like 8 gigs of RAM each, and let's go ahead and run initial benchmarks. So we'll go ahead and run this and see what they're capable of. Now these numbers can change. They don't mean a ton, but it just gives us a general idea compared to maybe the new M4 iPad Pro. Benchmarks completed, and the results are pretty similar. The single core score is within about 62 or so of one another, and then the multi-core score is about 500 or so off, depending on which device. The larger iPad seems to have better multi-core scores. The same is true with the iPad Pro. Just for a quick comparison with the brand new iPad Pro, you can see that the scores are significantly higher, almost 1,000 for single core, and then for multi-core, well, 13,338 compared to 7,725. Now, whether or not you actually notice that difference in real world is hard to say, but we'll have to actually try these out and see what they're like to use. Now, when it comes to the cameras, they're both very similar in that they're both on the landscape side this time around, much like they did with the 10th generation iPad and now the iPad Pro and iPad Air. The only one lacking that is the iPad Mini. And if we go into our camera settings, we'll go down to camera here. We can see the different settings. And if we go into record video, well, we have 4K 60, but not for the front-facing camera, similar to the iPad Pro. So with the rear-facing camera, we have 4K 60. With the video options, you'll see 4K 60. If I switch to the forward-facing camera, we have HD 60. So that's all we get. And let's do a quick video sample. And here's the front-facing camera, or the new landscape camera in the iPad Air. It's basically the same thing as the iPad Pro, and this gives you an idea of what the microphones sound like, what the quality is like, and it should work fine for things such as Zoom calls or maybe FaceTime calls. But I would love to see them bump this up to 4K like the rear camera. But if you want to use that, I guess you should use the iPhone at this point. But let me know what you think of the quality in the comments below. And so those are the cameras, basically what we expect from the iPad Air at this point, but there is a slight difference with the overall speakers. In fact, the speakers on the iPad Air, the smaller one, the 11-inch, are not as good as far as bass goes than the 13-inch, or compared to the 13-inch according to Apple. It says it has 2 times the bass. So let's go ahead and take a listen. I have a royalty-free sound or song here, and let's see what they sound like. I have the same file on both. Let's go ahead and open up the decibel level meter on the Apple Watch and see what they can do. So like I said, the larger one should have better bass. You definitely can hear the bass difference between the two. So if you prefer bass, of course, go with the 13-inch model. You can feel it in the iPad and hear it as well. So hopefully you were able to hear that on this video. But it has a much richer sound. They don't really distort at high volume, which is great. Battery life is the exact same as the previous version. So we have 10 hours on the Wi-Fi version, just using Safari, or about 9 hours on the cellular version. No changes there, and I've mentioned this in the Pro video. I wouldn't mind it maybe being slightly thicker to give us 20 hours of battery life, something like the MacBook Air. So no differences there, same charging and everything. We have Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3, and there's no millimeter wave this year. Now, as far as accessories, I showed you one already with the Magic Keyboard that will fit this, but the current or new Magic Keyboard with the aluminum face here for the keys does not work with this iPad Air. There's no way to hold it in place. It will just fall off the keyboard. So it won't work for you there, unfortunately. But that's okay if you have one of the older accessories. We also get to use 2 different Apple Pencils with this one. Now, we cannot use the Apple Pencil 2 or the original Apple Pencil, but we can use the Apple Pencil USB-C, which is the cheaper one, or the all-new Apple Pencil Pro. So this is the regular one. So this is the Apple Pencil 2. If I try and attach it here, it won't do anything. It won't work. It won't pair. But if we grab the new Apple Pencil Pro, which you can see here says Pencil Pro, and we attach it, it will actually pair to this device and let you use it. So it works right away and then shows you some of the new features. The new squeeze feature, where you can squeeze it here and you get haptic feedback. I showed this in the Pro video. It's great. And give it just a second here. to go through Scribble. We'll continue, and then you can add it to Find My as well. It's already been added, so it says that here. Now, if we go into Notes, and within Notes, if we go in and just squeeze here, we've got the same menu that we do on the iPad Pro. So that's really nice. They've actually included that. So if we want to switch to Eraser or just draw here, squeeze, go back to Eraser. And then we also have the ability to rotate. So if we go in, maybe go here, we've got the color that we want. We can change it to shapes or whatever we'd like. And then depending on how you're using this, of course, you can just use it like normal. You can use the tap feature. So double tap and use that, tap twice, erase, or you can just squeeze it to do the same. So you've got that haptic feedback, which is really, really nice. So that's pretty much everything with the new iPad Air. We just have a new 13-inch size with the M2 processor in it. Very similar. Of course, the FaceTime camera is now in the landscape side, which is great. And then it works with the new Apple Pencil Pro or the existing Magic Keyboard. Pretty much everything else is the same. Let me know if there's anything specific you want to know about the new iPad Air. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below, or if you'd like some sort of comparison between the Pro and the Air. You can see the Nano Texture display here, which is nice. It's not as reflective if I turn this off, so definitely an advantage there, but it may not be the reason to run out and buy a much more expensive device. Let me know in the comments below what you would like to see, and I'll link these wallpapers in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.